Well, I'm going to finish getting a few more things set up really quickly, but
Okay.
we are live.
We are live.
We are live.
Okay.
So see us on YouTube.
Well, good morning, everyone.
So.
Yeah, it's a little chilly outside, so I think the weather indicator that I looked at said it's going to be 62 by the time service starts.
Something like.
So take that into consideration if you're today.
What's up? We're live.
Yeah.
Karen and Anna. We'll bring them. We'll bring the stools when we're done with them.
Two.
Bye, guys.
Two of them. Okay. Maybe that would explain why they were higher.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
No, I think the kids were playing with them.
Well, that too.
All right, so I'm going to do this so I can see comments if we have them. All right, so we are good to go. We'll just go with this. So
Okay.
It'll look a little different because it's backwards, but there. That's normal. So this morning, we're going to do something a little different for the next 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
Next 2 weeks, we're going to do something a little bit different. And what we're going to do is, one, a lot of this is because, you know, we're pumped about outside.
Yes.
We've got a lot of work that goes on Sunday mornings to get that ready. But we're super excited about that, working everything towards it. And so, but we still want to be able to provide something. I know last week we just jumped on and was like, hey, get here at 11. So get here at 11. Like, that's still our, our request. Like, we still want you
Just
to be
warmly,
here.
but yeah.
Yeah, dress a little warm. It's under a tent, so we don't even get the direct sunlight. So you just kind of get the breeze. And I mean, it warms up. It's nice. If you get here early enough, there's donuts.
That is true.
I don't know how long they're going to last, but they're here. They're not for, like, we just get them for people that are here early. So
The early
those are
bird
there.
gets the donut.
Early bird gets the donut. That's the way we do it. Yep. So that's there. But for the next 2 weeks, what we're going to do is, you know, we've talked about some things here during these conversations, but what we haven't really done is there's some of you that are part of Villa that don't know my story as far as my testimony and things. Things have changed. You know, I was gone for a while. I did grow up in Villa, and we can talk about that. But most of us don't know Jason's story, unless little bits we've caught here and there in your sermons and your teachings.
I am a man of myth and legend.
There you go. So the next 2 weeks, what we're going to do, this week, I think we're mostly focusing on Jason asking me a bunch of questions, grilling me, hopefully nothing horrible. Can I plead the fifth on any question?
If you're not comfortable answering.
But anyway, then next week we will flip the switch and we'll go back towards Jason and get to see his story. So for the next 2 weeks, just kind of us opening up, letting you get to know us. And this is a good thing. It probably won't take an hour because they need the stools and they need some other things out there. So we need to get going.
Yeah.
I mean, right now RT's the one out there giving directions, and that's not going to work out really well.
Chris is there.
Holyfield is there,
Yeah.
and he knows what's going on. He does. I'm glad for him. He's an engineer. Those engineers know what they're doing.
You would think.
You hope.
Hope.
You hope.
Hope.
Especially when you see all the bridges and things that they do. So, all right. Let us go ahead and start. So.
All right. So, Chris Moore.
Yeah?
This is your life.
Yep.
All right. So,
My life in 30 minutes.
As I understand it, you are a Bean Creek original.
I am. I grew up on Matt Court. So, like, the creek, you know, the creek by the school?
Uh-huh.
Behind that creek. So no one from the old school's on here, so it's okay. Back in the day, my dad and I we played paintball, and so we would test the paintball guns to see if we could hit the school building from our backyard. So the paint that would streak down the side and then need to be probably repainted over after a while. Yeah, it was us.
Yeah. So that's where your parents are still at now, right?
Still at. They've been there since 80.
Okay.
And I was born in 85.
Okay.
So they've been there for a while.
Man, I got 10 years on you. Jeez. Anyway. Okay, so born and raised.
Yep.
An original. Now, did you ever go to IPS or were you always at CC? Or
Always at
VA?
It was Baptist Academy back then, but yeah, always Baptist Academy. We didn't have the voucher system thing. That wasn't a thing when we were a kid. So my choice was, I think it was like IPS. I want to say 31 or something like that, or something else. So my parents chose something else. they weren't even Christians. So me going to Baptist Academy had nothing to do with Christianity or anything to that effect. Dad grew up in that, type of lifestyle, but his parents didn't really live it out or anything. My mom grew up in the Lutheran Catholic tradition, not even strongly, just very, very loosely. Yep. So they just chose that school because they'd hoped it would keep me out of as much trouble as like an IPS would.
Now, you've got an older brother.
I do. He's 10 years older than me.
Okay, so he's about my age.
Yep.
Okay. Now, did he go to BA?
He did not.
Okay.
So we shared different moms.
Okay.
So he's from my dad's first marriage, and they were before 80. So he was born in 75, and I think they were married for like 2 or 3 years.
Okay. So technically, you're the middle child.
Technically the middle child.
Even though you were probably, for practical purposes, raised as the oldest child.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, pretty much. My brother came on the weekends, and then when he went to college, he was gone. So.
Right, and then you watched over Kelly.
Yep, and then me and Kelly. Yeah, Kelly's a year and a half younger than me.
Okay.
Most people get that flipped, by the way. I think it's maturity.
I can see that.
Yeah, but she's younger.
Okay, so you go to BA. I'm assuming all 13 years?
Yep.
Okay.
Kindergarten through.
But you were never...
That's where I met Tom.
I'm sorry. And Deputy.
It is where I met Deputy. He came in 6th grade.
Right.
So me and Tom been together since diapers, we say. Because we came to the preschool here at the church before BA.
Okay. So when did your parents start coming here then?
So the story about my parents is they sent us to Awana because it's where all my friends went.
Right.
So there was something to go do. And I want to say when I was in 2nd or 3rd grade, I don't remember, it's been a while, but one of the jobs or one of the tasks in the Awana book was to take your parent to church. And like they had to go 2 or 3 times and then you could sign that paper. And so it was like the 2nd or 3rd time that my mom went that she gave her life to Christ.
Really?
And started coming to church.
That soon. Good. And it took your dad a little bit longer than that?
Just a little.
Okay.
Yeah, he was hesitant, just some different things and stuff, but then he, started coming shortly thereafter.
So they are decades-long members. Okay.
Yep. You can find them in some really old picture books if you look, me and Kelly. It's pretty hilarious.
Oh, I've got all the yearbooks in my classroom.
Yeah,
so.
they're pretty hilarious.
Yeah.
Kelly got the big old glasses. Yeah.
Tom with hair.
Tom with hair. It's very different.
Yeah. Anyway, okay, so parents are coming to church, but you are not a believer, even when you graduated BA.
That's a hard one. So, because I have these discussions with a lot of teens or a lot of even adults that say, like, when did I accept Christ? Like, when did my life change over? Most people, and I would say that I would even see this scripturally, most people, when they give their life to Christ, there's a major change. There's a shift. And then you can see that fruit.
Right.
I remember a day when I was like in 5th grade. There was a teacher, really good relationship with her, and she preached the gospel to us a lot. She was a new teacher. I think she was actually only there like 2 or 3 years, and they moved on to something else. But she preached the gospel to us. She taught us a lot of songs and things like that. And I remember, kind of having that fear during one of her lessons or during her talks of like, I don't have like forgiveness. Obviously, I can look at my life and see that I'm a sinner. And so, there was a prayer, there was that me crying out with her to it. So I usually pinpoint like my salvation point to that, but that is not where I allowed the Spirit to regenerate me.
Right. So that came a little bit later.
Much later.
Okay.
Yep.
So, and you said through, especially most of high school, your focus was...
There was nothing else that mattered. I would even want to say, like, I wasn't anywhere close to, like, someone that had all these girlfriends and things like that. But that wasn't even, like, the focus. I would play basketball over girls any day.
Okay. And then why did your basketball career come to an end?
God. So, I joke, and there's a lot of people probably here that played, with me and things, and it wasn't probably until my junior, senior year that there was even a hint of, maybe some talent that could be used. I mean, I was just too short and scrawny. I remember graduating high school, and I probably weighed 115 if I was drenched. I mean, it's just what I was like 5'7", 5'8", maybe,
Right.
and just stick scrawny. I remember my mom would always complain when they would have me wearing the regular jerseys because the sleeves would come down. You could see like the ribs and everything else. She's like, I feed him all the time. Like, you should see what he eats. And so she hated that aspect of it. So it wasn't until I got to college that after college, I mean, I was down at Evansville, University of Evansville, and I played all the time. Probably way too much. Didn't care about my grades. And I played all the time, and that's when I started bulking up. And I actually grew like an inch and a half in my freshman year of college, gained about 30 pounds, but it was all like pure muscle because that's all I was doing.
Right.
So I got a lot better afterwards. So the problem is that every time like my focus was there, I could see God's hand just saying, hey, I don't want you to focus on that. I want you focusing on something else. Like, no, I was never LeBron James. Like, me and LeBron are the same age.
Okay.
So think about that. Like, when your coach tells you to go watch this game on ESPN, and you come back, and I was like, how would I guard him? He goes, oh, you wouldn't.
Yeah.
Like, you wouldn't guard him. You would stand in front and hope to get his autograph after the game. Like, that's what there was no talent there. Like, I'm never NBA.
Right.
Maybe some Christian school, college level, maybe.
But you were able to play at a small college level.
I could.
And that's still very good.
Absolutely, yeah. And so at Evansville, like, when I was at the peak, like, I was running scrimmages with the Evansville's team, which is a Division I
team,
NCAA team. I wasn't on their team, but they were like, hey, if we need a point guard, come play. And I was like, yeah, no problem. But yeah, so God just kept telling me. And I remember, and it was probably, I don't remember the grade for sure, but there was a point in my life, and it was early. It was before my first concussion. So I've had some major concussions, 3 absolutely major ones, and then probably like, honestly, if we could count, like 7 or 8 in between there.
Right.
But 3 of what they call like class 3 serious concussions where I was knocked out for a while. One time I was out for like 15, 20 minutes, and then there was all the side effects afterwards and everything else. So, and I still have those issues now after the last one that I got where they believe like there was some inner ear crystals that got knocked off or knocked loose. So I struggle with vertigo.
Okay.
From time to time. I'll just get it. There's nothing I can do. It's usually sinus related, so changing of seasons are really fun for me.
So it's coming up,
Yeah, so I have to be very careful, making sure that I can't be inverted, things like that. And that's all stuff that I still deal with. But I remember when I was in school, and again, I don't remember exactly what grade, and I remember doing this for Awana, is they were doing an Awana Awards program here at this church. And they wanted somebody from the Awana group to like give a challenge or devotion or something like that. And Chris Ward was the leader there at the time for me, and he was like, "Hey, Chris can do it." And I was like, "No, I'm good." Like that's not where I'm at, But he pushed me, and so we did it. And I don't remember how many people after that night, and I was young, came up and they're like, "This is what you should do," and I was like, "No." Absolutely not. Like, I am not being a pastor.
Right.
Like, I'm not a preacher. Like, I'm a basketball player. That's what I am. And so it's what I wanted to be, right? Reggie Miller, watching him growing up, he was, lanky and funky looking, so maybe I could do it too. And then there was Muggsy Bogues, right? He was 5'3", so there was a chance. But anyway, yeah, I believe that every time my attention got shifted, and just was so focused. Like when I had that dead set, I believe God brought, an injury into my life to bring me back and to tell me that I was not going to be able to do that.
That was not your calling.
It took me a long time to figure that out.
Yeah.
Freshman year in college is when I got my last one.
All right, so last concussion, and that effectively ended your basketball.
Oh yeah. I'm not, according to the doctors, and hopefully none of my insurance agents are watching. But no, according to the doctors, I am not allowed to play contact sports.
Okay.
Like, that is not something my body can handle. I still do. I do it a lot different now.
Yeah.
So I'm much more relaxed. So.
Yeah, my, again, not to focus away from.
Yeah.
But my youngest son's playing soccer, and the last practice is on Tuesday, and so the coach sent out a message that it's going to be parents versus kids.
Yep.
and I'm like,
Yep. Well, when I
I don't have any cleats.
Yep.
And I don't know if my knee's going to hold up to that. But yeah,
Well,
anyway.
I get the call from BA every now and then. They want to come back and play, alumni.
Varsity, yeah.
Like, I'll go over there and scrimmage the ball players every now. I probably wouldn't now. It's been a while. But all the way up to like 4 or 5 years ago, I wouldn't have a problem taking on any of those guys, like one-on-one. I was having fun doing it.
Right.
And we love going over there, and playing and stuff. But, yeah, I usually mostly turn those down anymore because my body's just not what it used to be.
Right. All right. So at that point, so that's freshman year.
Yep.
You're done. So did you continue on at Evansville?
No, I came back home just because of all the issues. Some, brain-related, some attitude and heart-related issues there to Evansville. Just didn't pay attention to schooling. I, very much ruined that first year.
Yeah.
And I would love to blame it on purely the concussion. There was some issues for sure. There was some time that I was off. There was some struggles with some teachers on that. But it was really just a lack of focus. I tried to just drown everything out with either video games or it was alcohol or girls or whatever I could do at that time to just focus on something else. And honestly, when I look back at it now, it really was. It was just this drive, and I never got anything crazy. Like I was just a regular guy, I'd sit around, play video games, and drink, and
right.
Talk to girls or whatever else, and stuff, and do things I shouldn't have been doing. But it wasn't like horrible or anything like that. But what it was that there was this war inside me happening that was like, you need to go do something different. Like this is not where you're supposed to be. And I wanted to be there so bad. Like I wanted to be the cool kid. I wanted to be the one that could get to the parties. I wanted to be the one that everyone liked. I wanted to have the fun car. I wanted to have all of this stuff.
Right.
And that's what I spent my time to do, drown out the sound inside me that was calling.
So did you ever continue education?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so.
Now, I tried every now and then, but could never, because I wasn't willing to submit to what I needed to do. I kept trying to find something else that I wanted to do in life.
Right.
Whether it was visual communications or whether it was graphic design or internet things, or whatever it was, something other than Christianity.
Well, yeah. So where did you turn that corner?
Man, so I remember being here at Villa when things were shifting they were moving down to the school there for a while. They were going to sell this building. That was when Kevin Willis was here, and did an internship, and the internship was because I was at Crossroads at that time, Crossroads Bible College, and trying to figure out like.
Wait, okay, so back up. What led you to Crossroads?
Tom was going there. So
okay.
Tom's story, not to get into too far on his, he started at Pensacola, didn't finish all of that stuff there, so he went to Crossroads to finish. And he said, dude, this is where you need to be. Like, you should come here. And at first, it was just like, I'm not doing anything else, so I might as well.
Right.
So I didn't even know 100% what I was going to study. I was going into youth because I had done some things here with the youth group, helping out.
But did you even consider yourself a Christian at that point?
I think I would have. I was starting to shift. It
okay.
did not change. The mindset did not change yet. It was quite a while before. Now, I think, like I said, I think what was happening is I was having, like, moments where I was doing really good. Like, I felt like Peter almost. Like, I'll be really, really strong, and then be like, no, I don't know any of that stuff.
Right.
And constantly going back and forth. So part of that, was going to Crossroads. Part of that was like, let's go do an internship. And then, but just my mind wasn't focused right. It was focused on everything else outside of Scripture.
Right.
It was still like, be cool, and like all the kids would come, and like, well, this fun stuff, and exciting things and stuff. I was drawn to the entertainment side. Like, man, I can be cooler than any Christian, So, that was kind of the aspect of thought. So.
Yeah. Okay. So you're in the internship, and.
Yep. Bad things happen. So I did not handle that well at all. And there was, girls on the outside, girls on the inside. It didn't work. My mindset was completely off. There was no basketball. I couldn't do basketball anymore. But it was it was purely like, let's try to be the cool kid. And that's where I was focused on. And so it kept getting me in trouble. And Willis really tried to help. Kevin Willis and I, he was like I'd call it like disciple mentor. So he knew all the struggles was going on, and he'd be constantly meeting with me. And I remember at one point, I don't remember what year, but he was just like, hey, you've got to make a decision. Like, you're going back and forth all the time. Like, when you're on, you're really strong. Like, and you're very valuable, you're very smart, you're very useful. You've got ability, like, you've got talent. This is where God wants you. But you're not doing it right. And he'd call me out, and he'd let me know. And so we just got to a point where I said, you're right. I'm not going to decide this. So I walked away. And that was probably some of the darkest points. Because at that point now, I wasn't trying to play a game. I didn't care.
Right.
I was old enough. I wasn't in school. I wasn't going to get in trouble. My parents, they wanted me to do what was right, but they were going to love me. And I knew that, and probably abused that to the extent of knowing that. But, yeah, I just completely let go and just said, nope, my life is about me now.
Yeah.
And so I lived that way for quite a few years after that point. And then there wasn't like a moment. It was just, there was a Sunday that I woke up and was like, I should go to church. And I came back to Villa. I remember coming back and being like, this isn't where I can be. Like, there's too much here. I've got to battle too much. There's too much history. There's too much backstory. And so I left, and that's when I ended up finding Life Point. And so I went to Life Point for quite a few years. Invited all my friends that weren't going to Villa. I didn't try to take anybody, but some of the other friends and stuff, like, I started inviting them to church and being like, you guys should come check this out. Like, it actually is really cool, and it's really nice and fun and exciting, and they teach really good, well, and they push you. And then how that led into youth ministry was Tom was in charge of. It's centered around Tom. Like, Tom and I's story are so linked, and it's crazy how that's the case. But he was doing Upward. Upward,
yeah.
Like the thing. So he was doing that. He was in charge of scheduling the devotion speakers. So I'd started getting my life right, and he was like, "Hey," and during this time I met Anna.
Okay.
This was when obviously people that know me, I knew Anna because I knew Michael. I didn't know who Anna was. Like, I didn't pay attention to her at all.
What's the age difference?
7
Okay.
years. So
Yeah.
I didn't care.
My wife, same.
Yeah, so when we were in high school, like when me and Michael graduated together, when she was 11, so like
Right.
I didn't even think, like I didn't even know who she was, and she knows that. I'm not trying to be mean, but we had started talking right before this, and then Tom calls me, and he was like, "Hey, I need somebody to come lead a devotion. I had someone back out. Can you help me out?" And I was like, "No, I'm not doing that." He's like, "Dude, I really, really need you." He's like, "I wouldn't ask you." He's like, "It's super fast, 5 minutes, be done." And so I did it, and then that's where I met one of the pastors over at the first church that I worked at, Baptist Tabernacle. And so they were like, "Hey, what are you doing?" And I was like, "I'm at Life Point, blah, blah, blah." Like, "No, like, what are you doing?" And I didn't really understand the question at first. And then what they were asking was like, "What ministry are you involved in?"
Right.
And I was like, "I don't really know yet. I'm trying to see, what Life Point, I'm working with the pastor there. We're going to see what can be done or what there is opportunity for me in learning. I want to grow." And they were like, "We need a youth pastor." And I was like, "I don't know that I'm a pastor yet." Like, because I take that that calling with a very serious thing.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
And I was like, "I don't know. Like, I want to get there. Like, at this point now, that's my mindset.
Right.
Like, I want to do the right thing. I just don't know if I can anymore." Like, I didn't know, like, at that point, had I disqualified myself? Had I done enough things that were wrong? Could I be smart enough? Could I teach well enough? I just didn't know. And so they asked me to go. We had a great 2 years. And then, so I left there, went back to Life Point. RT came here and asked me to come back here.
Okay.
So,
So is that
No, you can ask any.
Well, no, I'm just so 2 years there, and that's his dad's church, right?
That was
Okay.
Harvey Stringer's church.
Right.
Ryan Benninger is there now.
Right. Now is Cameron in their youth group now?
I believe Cameron's helping. I don't know what the roles are specifically,
Okay.
but I know he's helping a lot.
Right.
Cameron does a lot of stuff over there. Cameron's great,
Oh yeah.
great help for that church.
I love having him in
Yeah.
class.
He's fantastic.
So. Okay, so 2 years there, RT asked you to come over here, and when was that?
That was, I mean, like 4 months okay. He'd asked me before, like, so we met because of being at his dad's church. So we ran into each other. There was a situation, you know, a church gathering at the church at Harvey's house, and RT and Karen and the girls were there. And that's the first time we met them. I didn't know until much later that RT tells this story, but I didn't know years later. RT looked at Karen after that event and was like, "Hey, I want to work with him one day." Like,
You know, we'll get into this next week, but he kept trying to, when we met through the guard, and he was like, he knew he wanted to work with me.
yep.
Yeah.
So it's really weird. So anyway, that's how I met him. So as soon as he took over, well, as soon as he found out he was coming to Villa, he had a conversation with Coach Brown, who obviously I respect above everything. And he was the youth director here.
Right.
He was the one doing stuff. So, like, I love Coach. You know, he's my coach, always will be. And so he was here. So when RT first came to me, he was like, "Hey, I've talked to Bobby at the time," and it took me a little while to realize who Bobby was because I always called him Coach.
Right.
But he said he's ready to come out of the youth, and he needs some. I'm like, I am not replacing Coach. Like that was I'm sorry, I can't, and I can't come to Villa. Like that's not a thing that's gonna happen. So it took him a while, but I think it was I think he came in like. He'd have to tell you, April, May, somewhere around there. I was in October, same year.
Okay.
So I think it's 2016,
Okay.
I think is the year we came. So we were only like 4 months apart. And I talked to Coach ahead of that, by the way.
Right.
Because I had to. I was
Right.
like, "Hey, Coach."
But you said that there was a gap there where you left Baptist Tabernacle
and went back to Life Point. Yep.
Okay, so was that just...
There wasn't anything... I don't think there's anything here I want to say here.
Right.
Like, there was some differences, obviously, when you leave somewhere. There's some differences. But, yeah, I mean, there was no, like, sin. There was no bad thing that happened. Or, you know, Anna and I had been married at this point. We're actually celebrating our 7-year anniversary on Monday. But there was no, like, bad decision or sin there. It was just hey, I think our time here is done.
Right.
And so we need to step out. And then so we just obviously went back to Life Point because that's where we were before we was there.
Right.
And so we're there. So we just went back. And we were going to get involved there. So.
And then RT came.
And then RT came. And so I talked to Jim a lot. Pastor Jim Gregory there at Life Point, he helped me a lot because I didn't want to. Not only did I not really want to go back to Villa, and he quickly told me, like, that's childish, like, you need to grow up. But I like the Life Point idea. A little bit more relaxed, you know, maybe fancier, if I could use that word. I don't think it is now. I think we've done fantastic here. But that was some of the thoughts that went through my head then.
Right.
I was very comfortable. There was a lot of classes, a lot of women things for Anna. We were having a really good time there. Our family was there at that point because Michael and Courtney were there at that point. Renee was there. My mom had visited a couple times and was thinking. Norm Ward and Nan Ward were there. So that's where I met Norm, was at Life Point. So.
Yeah, we need to pray for him.
Yep.
He's
not doing well. So. But yeah, so then RT asked and just kept saying, like, hey, this is what we need. And so came here with that mindset of being one of the pastors and helping out. So.
All right, just real quick because
Yep.
we need to wrap up.
We do.
So you've been here about 4 years now.
Mm-hmm.
What favorite memory in the time that you've been here?
Favorite memory in the time we've been here. I have a few that would stick with just like leaders that were fun that I wouldn't share on here. I don't make fun of the kids, but
Right.
these kids do funny things sometimes.
Oh,
So you get to laugh at them.
Right.
So there's a few things like that. Let me think. Man. I don't know. I don't know if I could pinpoint one. Here's what I can say is watching the growth of the church. I was one that, I went to BA, and the history of BA is not the prettiest. A lot of bad things that have happened. And there was a lot before me, there was some after me, but mostly all while we were there. And so just a bad taste, of saying a lot of hypocrisy, a lot of legalism, a lot of stunted growth and things of that nature. And so there was a lot of things that did that with Villa, like that just kind of went through to Villa. And so to me, when I came back, it was just like, well, these people love God. Like they do. Like they're desiring somebody, and RT is the perfect person to do that, but to lead them in worshiping and loving and serving God. They wanted to.
Right.
They desired it. And to see that growth and those changes, that to me was probably the coolest. I think if I had to pick a memory just to show like that aspect of it would be when the electrical storm hit, or not the electrical storm, but the power came through and IPL burned our building up, or tried to. And we had to really fast set up a service down at the school. You weren't here yet.
No.
So,
that was the one where there were some baptisms, right?
There was some baptisms. So
Yeah.
I was the one did a lot of the baptisms there. Nick Robertson and Larry Gilmore, both were baptized in a horse trough
Right.
in the middle of the gymnasium. I was not in the trough with them, but I was on the outside.
Yeah.
So just make that clear.
That'd be a
And
little
Nick
tight.
almost hit his head on the way down because he's like twice the size of the trough.
Oh, yeah.
But that aspect, sitting back, I think even once the baptisms were done, RT was preaching, I was sitting in the bleachers, and I was just like, I remember our church being here. And I'm not speaking anything bad about a church. I'm not trying to call out anything or say anything bad. But I was here when the church was down at the school before. That was during my internship also. This church is different. Like, this church is set up because they serve God and they love God, and they weren't going to let a storm change them.
Right.
Seeing the people run around willing to do anything and everything. I mean, Chris picking up a horse trough, at 6 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday. Ward and Holyfield and McIntyre and all these people just showing up just to pull out the tarps and to put the chairs down and get everything ready. And we built a milk crate stage for RT. He didn't trust it. He just ended up standing on the ground, I think. I think it would have been okay, but
Right.
he didn't trust it. So I think that was probably my best moment. And it was just because you got to see the people, and there was not one complaint.
Right.
You would normally think, like, you move a church from a building, like a church building, sound and all that. I mean, sound don't sound the same in an auditorium,
Oh, no.
in a gymnasium, than it does when it's set up.
I announce those basketball games.
Yeah,
I know how
so,
bad that PA system is.
it's bad, and we
Yeah.
had to use that. Like, we couldn't just bring a whole system down and change everything over. So we were modifying everything and trying to get it, and it was just great to see. And I
Yeah.
think that would probably be my favorite moment if I had to pick one. But part of that would just being, to me, the growth of the church. So.
All right.
All right, so we're going to go upstairs. We're going to take these stools. We're not going to forget.
That's right.
We will see you at 11 or anytime sooner. I don't know if there's still donuts left, but if there is, there's going to be one less when I get up there.
That's right.
Just saying. So, love you guys.
Yep.
Bye.